Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I'm going to be showing you a new Groudon card coming out in the Pokemon trading card game in Celestial Storm, the next expansion. I mean, we recently had a look at Kyogre, and if we didn't have a look at Groudon as well, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, that would be just a little bit rude. Now, starting off, there's a lot to like about Groudon. 130 HP is really nice because it can take a hit from something like Zoroark or Silvally. And we've talked many a time about how much better 130 is than 120. That's quite good. The weakness to grass doesn't really worry us. Yeah, Tapu Bulu and Golisopod would generally hit for 120. So if you've got 130, the weakness will take you over the top and get you KO'd. But honestly, they're not that great at the moment. So the weakness isn't a huge problem. The retreat cost of 4 does kind of suck, I will happily admit that. But, you know, sometimes you have a high retreat cost. I mean, you do have about a month of, and it is only a month, unfortunately, before it rotates out, but a month of Heavy Ball. But really here, what we're really liking is the fact that it's a fighting Pokemon. Now, firstly, fighting Pokemon means that you do get to hit for weakness against stuff like Zoroark and Silvally, which is very relevant, but it means you can search it out with Brooklet Hill. Fun side note, both Kyogre and Groudon can be searched out with Brooklet Hill. And of course, pre-rotation, you got Strong Energy to add a bit of damage, and post-rotation, you still got Diancie Prism Star to add a little bit of damage. There is a lot to like about being a fighting Pokemon right now, to be perfectly blunt with you. But as always, it is down to the attacks that really make or break whether the Pokemon is good or not, and as has become somewhat of a theme on PTCGRadio lately, it is the lovely David Hochmann who has provided our translation over at limitlesstcg.com/translations. So, what does it actually do? Well, 1 fighting, 2 colourless energy, 50 damage. If there's a stadium in play, it does 50 more damage, then discard the stadium. There's a lot to like about this attack. Now, first things first, one thing we don't like, the cost is a little bit too high. Now, the good news is you can use double colourless energy, which is nice. And the other good news is that you can use Max Elixir. Again, we're only talking for about a month before the rotation hits, but still, the combination of Max Elixir and double colourless energy can work to your advantage here. I mean, and don't do it with Groudon, please don't do it with Groudon. But one thing I am waiting for people to have a bit of a play with is the combination of Beast Ring to accelerate some energy and then Ninja Boy into a different basic Pokemon. Again, that's not something I expect to happen in the near future. But you know, something to bear in mind anyway, although like I say, it's rotating out, so you might have to wait for expanded. So the attack cost isn't great, but it's manageable. 50 damage for free energy is not good. 100 damage for free energy, that we can get on board with. It does actually fall 10 damage with weakness short of KOing something like a Zoroark, but again, you're never really going to be hitting for 100 damage with this. It's going to be 120 with something like Diancie Prism Star. So if you're hitting for weakness, you are good to go. But even if you're not hitting for weakness, this adds up very, very quickly indeed. So let's say for argument's sake, it's pre-rotation, you whack a Strong Energy on there, you're up to 120. You have a Diancie Prism Star in play, you're up to 140. You pop a Choice Band down, you are up to 170, and all of a sudden Tapu Lele is going down in a single hit. Everyone's playing Tapu Lele, you're getting a 1-hit KO on it, it gives up 2 prizes, so anything that can get an easy, cheeky 1-hit KO on a Tapu Lele is absolutely worth looking at. Now, to get the KO on Tapu Lele, you do need to really use a combination of Strong Energy and double colourless, so at that point, Enhanced Hammer starts kind of looking over the fence and going, hey, how you doing? But if you can get 2 prizes with this, it doesn't really matter. And let's not forget, you can always use cards like Multi-Switch here to switch a little bit of energy over and get rocking and rolling. Now, there is an argument here that we've got better fighting attackers. You've got Sudowoodo that sees quite a lot of play, although Sudowoodo really depends on the attack your opponent used the previous turn. We've got the new Lycanroc from Forbidden Light, but that really depends on how many bench Pokemon your opponent's got out. We've got the new Buzzwole from Forbidden Light. Just so long as your opponent has got 4 prizes remaining. Swing Around isn't really as good as Groudon's attack, and it's got a much more awkward cost, and I've seen people use Swing Around in games. And then, of course, we've got stuff like Buzzwole, but they're GXs. So looking at all of these Pokemon together, and do remember that the good Sudowoodo will be rotating when the rotation hits, maybe there is a bit of room for this. Maybe there is a bit of use for this as a non-GX attacker. And we've only been talking about the attack and the damage up till now. Because I tell you something for nothing, ladies and gentlemen, we've actually got a secondary effect here, which is really quite good, because of course you're discarding a stadium in play. And discarding a stadium in play can be absolutely great. One thing I really like the idea of here is actually being a little bit cheeky. Popping down something like a Brooklet Hill so you can search for a Pokemon of your choosing, and then your opponent's like, yay, I can search for a Pokemon too, this is nice. Then you use this attack and you're like, ha, now Brooklet Hill isn't in play anymore, you lose, sucker! So that could be fun. Or maybe your opponent's played a Parallel City, again this one is rotating, and you can use this to get rid of it, although annoyingly your opponent could then just play it down again on their turn, but that's not the point. Something like Forbidden Shrine is going to be quite good after rotation. The stadium we've been mentioning in a lot of videos lately that puts 1 damage counter on each Pokemon EX and GX between turns. Maybe that's going to kick in and do more damage than you're comfortable with having been done to your Pokemon. So great news, you attack with Groudon, you get rid of it. Maybe you're in the expanded format against a Mega Rayquaza list, and you use this to get rid of Skyfield so they're no longer able to get a key one-hit KO, etc, etc. I could keep going all day with examples of useful ways to get rid of stadiums here. The point very simply is, this gets rid of stadiums. And this is basically borderline good for the damage. The damage is alright, especially when you can start adding with stuff like Diancie Prism Star, especially if you're hitting for weakness, but it's not quite that upper tier damage that really gets us excited. But then you build in the fact that you're able to get rid of these stadiums and hurt your opponent in that way, and all of a sudden it becomes a much more enticing proposition. Now, unfortunately, the second attack I just cannot particularly get on board with. Fighting double colourless, 130, discard 1 energy attached to this Pokemon. I mean, look, numbers-wise, we're still doing alright here. Let's assume it's post-rotation and strong energies rotated. Whack a Choice Band 160, whack a Diancie Prism Star 180, and all of a sudden you're hitting 180 and getting a KO on quite a lot of Pokemon. Then maybe you add a Strong Energy or a Professor Kukui here, and that's a one-hit KO on all these evolutions like Espeon, for instance. I'm not saying that the damage isn't great here. I'm saying that 130 HP, while good for a non-GX, is still not that sturdy. And by the time you start putting on 4 energy, it really is getting to the point of, yeah, well, when this goes down, I've wasted a lot of resources. And let's face it, you could have free energy on a Buzzwole GX. And at this stage, you might as well put the energy on a Buzzwole using Swing Around, which is probably going to do 100 for free energy, rather than 130 for 4 energy. It's not a terrible attack, and if you play Groudon, you will occasionally get use of this attack. But honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I just cannot endorse this attack. It's way too expensive for what it actually does. So what we're left with is a Pokemon that's got all the basics right, the HP and the weakness it's hitting and the typing it's got, etc. A really expensive attack and a useful attack. This could be a fairly nice non-GX attacker in fighting decks, especially if you want to get rid of stadiums. And for that reason, I'm giving it 3 Wassies. It's not a great card. It is not a card to build around. But it is a card that you will occasionally want to chuck in a fighting deck as a non-GX attacker, which means you need a copy of your binder ready to go, so therefore, it's a free Wossy card. But if you disagree with me, great news, there's a comment section. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do just that and make me rather happy in the process. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourself. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.